Alright, so welcome to a tutorial on how to make a vocoder that sounds like Jacob Collier's harmonizer.
What you say?
It's pretty simple and it's really fun. So first I'm just going to give you a taste of what it sounds like. So I'm not a great singer and the balance is going to be a little bit off because I'm using a separate mic track here to send the audio of Reaper to OBS. And you should now be able to see what I'm playing on the keyboard here. Yeah, again, I'm a really bad singer, so here's what it sounds like, just real quick.
Hold on here, boy. I don't know the words. Hold on here, boy. Hold on here, boy.
Again, it keeps cutting out there because it's a demo version of a plugin, which makes it free. You can buy the full plugin if you want to not cut out like that. So let's get right into the tutorial. First, what you're going to want to do is head over to iZotope and download their Vocal Synth 2 plugin. It works with every major DAW, and it's a really good plugin, and you can get the demo version for free. Like I'm using, it continues to cut out like that every few seconds, so you can't record full tracks with it on the free version, which makes sense. Or you can buy the full version for $200. Honestly, it's kind of worth it if you're going to be using this feature a lot. Again, it's a big feature-packed plugin. You can look at it further, but just click try here and throw in your email, and that's how you download that. Alright, now that you got Vocal Synth installed, let's get to the next step. Before I move on, actually, this plugin here is called MIDI Chord Analyzer, and it's a really handy plugin to be able to see what you're playing and show the viewers what you're playing on your keyboard. That's just a little side note. Yeah. So I already have Vocal Synth 2 installed, and I've already got my vocoder made here, but that's what I'm going to show you how to do. So I threw them in a bus and muted it so you can't hear that. What you want to do first is just create 2 new tracks and don't have them in their own bus. Once you have those 2 tracks, just go ahead and label them because it makes it much easier to do things later. Just label them vocoder and mic because you feed the audio of the mic into the vocoder plugin. Now that you've got those 2 tracks made, open the routing menu for the mic track. And once this menu opens up, right here where it says parent channels, change that to 2 and 3. Once you've got that done, head down here to sends and send it to the vocoder. Now I have 2 vocoders and mine is track 5, so just make sure you send it to the right one. There we go. Once you've got the sends done in the routing menu, you're going to want to come over here to the mic, and you want to alt-click on this little routing graphic here. Alt-click on that, and that will mute the mic so that you don't hear the actual mic. All you hear is the vocoder. And what you can do if you want to hear the mic is add another track. That just makes it easier so that there's no latency, and that's just how I've done it, and it works really well. So once you have that done, you want to go to your vocoder track and add Vocal Synth 2 as an effect. And you get all these menus. Just click demo or authorize it if you chose to buy it. And yeah, now let's get into setting up Vocal Synth 2. We want to head over to our vocoder track and set up our MIDI controls before we do the actual vocoder settings. So right click the record arm button and go down to input. It'll most likely be on default mono if you have, or stereo if you have an interface with inputs plugged in. Head down to MIDI and select all MIDI inputs and all channels. And make sure your MIDI keyboard is plugged in before you start this. So my keyboard was already plugged in. You can tell because you can see what I'm playing there on that little top monitor. That's pretty cool. Great plugin like I mentioned before. Now that that's all set up, all you want to do is head into Vocal Synth, and this is where we set up the vocoder. So this is my new vocoder track here with the settings, and I'll open up my old one, my one from the demo earlier, to show you the settings that I have for that. So here's the settings. Contrary to what you think, you don't want to use the vocoder effect. You want to use the polyvox. Polyvox actually takes your voice and it multiplies it. It uses the same audio again and again instead of running it through a synth. That's what gets that classic Jacob Collier sound. Obviously, it's not as clean as Jacob Collier's, but it still sounds really good, and it's free, pretty much free. So yeah, what you want to do is head over to Polyvox, click the power button thing here on Polyvox, and also undo Vocoder, and just copy the settings I got here. I believe they're the default, so just make sure you do that. And there's one more step that we need to complete to make sure that Vocal Synth gets the MIDI input that we routed in before. I've also added the visualizer thing up here again so you can see when I'm playing and when, just to know that it is getting the MIDI input. So next thing we need to do is head over to Vocal Synth here, and on the top click auto mode and change that to MIDI. It should automatically, once you do that, it should accept the MIDI input that we routed in before over here, and it should be in working order. There's one more step I have to do that you should not have to do. All I have to do is unmute this track and mute this track so that Vocal Synth gets the correct mic input, but you shouldn't have to do that. It should be already set up for you. And I should have mentioned earlier that the first mic track you made right here should be accepting the input of the mic that you want, which is kind of obvious. Alright, so once I click mute on my OBS mic track, you won't be able to hear me until I start playing and talking or singing at the same time through the vocoder. That's what I'll get to next, is adding another mic track so that you can hear yourself. So it should be in working order. If we play a little bit and sing it or talk, it should work. Here we go. Yeah, it's working. I'm a terrible singer, but it's working. And yeah, that's really it. So this has been a tutorial on how to make a kind of Jacob Collier sounding vocoder harmonizer thing. I think it sounds pretty darn good for being free. And again, you can buy it, the full plugin, for $200 if you don't want to have it cut out every like 10 seconds. As you can see, every time it says demo, that just means it's cutting out. But yeah, that's it, and it should work well for you if you follow the steps closely. If anything wasn't clear, just shoot me a question in the comments below and I'll try to answer and help you guys out. This is a pretty cool plugin that makes this possible, and I've always loved Jacob Collier's harmonizer, and to be able to even model that is pretty cool, especially with free software. So thanks so much for watching, and if I do other tutorials or stuff, you'll see them on this channel. I did just release a new single on Spotify yesterday. It's kind of okay. Maybe give it a listen. I also have an EP on Spotify called Desk Studies. It's really chill, funk, kind of elevator music. Good stuff to have on in the background. So thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time, I guess.